Hi, my name is Rahil Siddiqui. I am a junior doctor in the NHS in England, and I have recently been diagnosed with COVID-19, and I am recovering. I just wanted to share my journey with you guys, so whoever is going through something similar can maybe learn something from me, from my mistakes, from what I did right, what I did wrong. A few weeks ago, I was doing a long 13-hour shift at work. I was covering for a colleague who was off sick. They were self-isolating, and I had been working for the past 6 days doing a long 13-hour shift, on-call shift, which involves seeing patients in A&E and on the wards, clerking them, seeing them, etc. It was my last day for these long shifts. Around midday, I experienced a headache. I felt very weak and had a headache. I thought it was one of my normal headaches, migraines, which I get. I took some Panadol, managed to get a nap in between at work, and I felt better. So I continued. Later that afternoon, I developed a cough. And it was a random cough out of nowhere. It wasn't that severe. I would say it was a mild cough, dry cough, non-productive. But obviously I felt weak, so I called 111. And before I called them, I checked my temperature and it was 37.9. So when I called 111, they said, you should self-isolate for 7 days, safeguarded me, and that was the end of it. My cough gradually started getting worse. Every time I would get a temperature spike, I would feel, so the way it would start was I would feel very weak. I would start feeling sweaty or shivering, chills throughout my body, and I would check my temperature, it would be high in the high 37s or 38s, and then my cough would get really bad. I had severe myalgia, so severe body aches, very bad neck pain, headaches, shoulder pain, back pain. I would wake up every day for back. So for the first 7 days, the back pain was a major symptom for me. It was very severe. The cough was still there, the temperatures were still there, but the main symptom that was problematic for me would be the back pain and the shoulder pain. I felt very weak and dizzy whilst walking, very, very tired, just not able to do my daily activities, just lying around resting as everyone advised. I would take vitamin D, 2,000 units a day, vitamin C as well, which sometimes made me felt nauseous. Took some multivitamins, and just stuff what people told me. And luckily my mother was with me, living with me, and she was taking care of me, and she developed symptoms as well, so we were both advised to self-isolate. We're both taking care of each other, and the first 7 days were okay. Day 7 was when things started to get bad. My cough was really, really bad. I was coughing nonstop, especially in the afternoons, and obviously I would ask advice from colleagues who were self-isolating for similar symptoms, and they would say if it's cold, then warm yourself and the cough gets better. But that wasn't working either. There was a point on day 7 where my cough was so bad that I couldn't breathe. So I took inhalers. I have childhood asthma, so I thought it might be my asthma. I took inhalers. I took Vicks steam inhalation. That helped. I took Nigella sativa black seeds, like I would chew them and swallow them. Turmeric in hot milk with honey, and these things just helped. I don't know if they did, but they just prevented the symptoms from getting really bad. Day 9 is when the cough got so bad that I had to call an ambulance. My sats dropped. I have a pulse oximeter at home, a thermometer, and my temperature went up to 39.3. The cough was just nonstop. I just coughed straight. I wouldn't stop coughing for like an hour. Called the paramedics, explained to them, they came, they assessed me. I was using a 5, which in medical terms here means you should start thinking about escalation, sepsis, etc., blah, blah, blah. Obviously, I knew I had COVID symptoms. Whether I was exposed at work from a colleague, I don't know. But I made the decision to go to hospital. Luckily, my lungs were compensating. My sats kept fluctuating from 87 to 97, weirdly enough. Every time I would lie down, my sats would drop, but if I would sit up, they'd be fine. Once I got to the hospital, they assessed me. It wasn't a very busy shift for them either, luckily, so I got pretty quick assessments and attention. And they basically said they did a chest x-ray. They did some bloods. My chest x-ray, they said, show some patchy infiltrates, very highly suggestive of COVID. And I remember being in A&E for, it felt like 12 hours. I probably wasn't there for 12 hours, but all night I was just coughing non-stop. My breath, I was short of breath. I was coughing. My chest hurt a lot in the middle. It felt like literally someone got some glass and was stabbing me in my throat and in my chest and my lungs. It was terrible. I'm normally fit and well. I've never been that unwell in my life, and I didn't think I was going to make it. I was seen by the medical team. They said that, they did an arterial blood gas on me. The A&E team did an arterial blood gas. They said that everything looks okay except for my arterial oxygen levels are low. And given my chest x-ray findings, they discussed with the medical team. They said they want to keep me in for observations. Weirdly enough, when I did get to hospital, I started producing green sputum. I did have the day before some productive white sputum, but in A&E I started having this green sputum, so I told them, and then they gave me some IV benzalpenicillin and clarithromycin. I stayed in for 24 hours for observation. The cough would just not stop. And it literally came to a point where I hadn't slept for 24 hours. I hadn't eaten anything for 24 hours. All I was doing was coughing. And I just told myself, listen, I need to stop this cough. And I realized that every time I would take a breath in, halfway in taking a normal breath, my lungs would make me cough. And then I would not stop. So I stopped breathing through my mouth. I tried breathing through my nose. To me, somehow that helped. The cough stopped. I don't know if it was the delayed reaction of the antibiotics. I don't know, but the cough stopped. I would still get bouts and episodes of really, really nasty coughs with temperature spikes. That was still there. My temperature was still 39.3. And, my cough was terrible whenever my temperature was high. I'd have to sit up to be able to catch my breath. I was tachypnic, so I was just breathing very, very quickly, very fast. And but luckily my lungs were compensating, and they were providing the adequate oxygen levels according to the SATS meter. I was seen by the consultant in the morning. They said that my underlying childhood asthma has kicked in. This is why my cough is so bad. They said that the antibiotics have been working because my saturation levels have improved. When I went to A&E, they were 94, 95. In the ambulance, well, when the paramedics assessed me, as I said, they were 87 at home, fluctuating to 92. But the next morning after antibiotics, they were stable at 97. They were happy for me to be discharged on oral antibiotics for 7 days and regular salbutamol and steroid inhalers. I was still very, very weak. My appetite was crap. I hadn't eaten properly in days. I was on fluids, milk, water, anything I would eat. I would just feel very bloated. I could not get burps out. I was not passing bowel motions. I was just in a terrible state. And when I got back from the hospital, I was on these antibiotics, and miraculously, obviously with everything, I was taking the vitamins and all the herbal stuff that people recommended, and with the antibiotics, I started getting better. And this was day 12, day 13. I started getting much, much better. The cough was still there. I would still get pretty bad episodes of cough, but they were improving. The intensity of the cough was improving. And I noticed that every time I was coughing, my body was trying to get rid of this nasty green sputum. But weirdly enough, on my chest x-ray, there were no signs of a pneumonia. So I don't know what was happening. But whatever we were doing was working. I gradually improved. Day 14, my cough was barely there. It's very minimal. And now it's day 21. I've been advised by occupational health not to see patients, given that I'm on steroid inhalers. But I feel good. I still get weak. I feel dizzy sometimes. The other day I had really bad, which I thought was chest pain, but it was more in my axilla. Really, really bad pain. And so I think the myalgias and the body pains are still there. But it's just the way how things go with this disease. For me personally, they started off very mild. They got really, really bad. I think day 9 to day 13 was the worst for me. And then miraculously, it just got better. I'm still on the steroid inhaler. I finished the antibiotics. I don't need to use the salbutamol inhaler because I'm not coughing anymore. I'm trying to wean myself off of the steroid inhaler. Obviously, I'll figure that out with my GP. But I think the important thing is that I wasn't careful enough. Maybe, I don't know. I was washing my hands all the time. And obviously, I think I caught it at the time when we didn't really know much about this disease. We didn't know that masks and PPE were essential at that time, and we were only using them for patients who we highly suspect. But then things and people started to realize that asymptomatic people can transmit this illness as well. There were several moments where I thought I wasn't going to make it. I was scared of getting intubated. I was scared of being on CPAP, Airvo. But thankfully, none of that happened. And I do have some colleagues who were put on those things. They're better now, but it is very traumatic, very scary. And I don't want anyone to go through what I went through or what people are going through with this illness. The important message really is to follow the advice, stay safe, wash your hands, wear a mask if you can, and just don't take unnecessary risks. If you're working in the NHS, if you're providing care for someone who might have the disease, I would recommend not to take any unnecessary risks. If you feel you're not safe, if you feel that you're not protected, then take a stand. And I wish I would have done that, and maybe I wouldn't have caught it, but I'm better now, and that's all that matters. Like I said, vitamin D, vitamin C, Nigella sativa, turmeric powder, garlic, ginger, all of these things were part of my diet throughout this whole time. I'm still on these things. Multivitamins are also a huge important thing. You need to keep your immunity up. If you take stress, if your diet isn't good, if you're still smoking, if you're still eating unhealthy, I recommend that you stop or try to change your lifestyle, because some people are getting through this, some people aren't through this disease, and I just think it's something that we should all be very, very careful about, not take it lightly. And so that was my story. It's my journey.